I'm Cammy,
And I'm Moni,
and this is a little chat.
a little cheeseman.
What up, boo?
Hey,
How you doing?
I'm tired.
You tired? Long days.
Yeah, it's been a long couple weeks.
Couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, you want to tell me about it? And by
Uh,
me, I mean our listeners too.
um, I don't know. I don't even know where it starts. Just Spark Notes version of it, I guess. I don't even know. It's just been a long year, I guess.
And it's only April. April 1st. Happy April.
Oh yeah. This is my the anniversary of when I left my first big girl job. When I left my first clinic. It was on April 1st. I'll never forget because I was like, I'm coming back. April Fool.
The best. The
Um,
best April Fools.
yeah, it'll make 6 years with the company I'm at right now. It's crazy.
Wow.
Hmm.
6 years is a long time to be in the same place.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. So long as I've ever been anywhere. Yeah, just a lot of things. Work is crazy, like busy and like trying to do a lot of things at once. And I'm due for a vacation for sure. Like a true vacation where I like actually have no plans, but all the plans at the same time. Um,
Yeah. Unplugging.
yeah, I'm plugging. Yeah, just a bunch of other stuff. Stressors being an adult. We talked about that a little bit in adulting.
Yes, we did.
Hmm.
This is a good episode for you then this week.
Yeah. I'll talk about all the things I don't do and that everyone.
The advice that you give, but you should also take.
Right, exactly. What's your update? What's up?
Uh, I'm chilling. I have had a series of unfortunate events.
Mm,
Injuries appear to come in threes for me.
what?
So, yeah, so I don't know if you can't really tell, but this random rash appeared on my cheek on Thursday. And it
Okay.
was bad. Like it was intense, really red. Now it's a little bit milder,
Mm,
but still there. Like a week later, it's a little weird. The next day on Friday, I am walking into the bedroom and I stub the shit out of my toe. Like kick the door frame because I think I broke my toe. Like I'm pretty sure I fractured my toe because I have this insane bruise between my pinky and whatever that digit next to it is called. My
mhm.
ring toe? I don't know. I have like this huge bruise and then it goes around the side of my foot too, and it hurts to touch it. So I'm pretty sure something's wrong with it, but it'll. What are they going to do at the doctor? Tape it to my other toe. That's it. Put me in a boot.
Mhm.
Ain't nothing I need to spend the copay to go visit a doctor to or do the radiation of an X-ray. Like I know something's up. I'm just trying to rest it. But this was a weekend too where I couldn't rest. Like we had a doctor's appointment on Saturday, had to take Jess, and then we got the green light to do the IUI on Monday, so we did. IUI happened yesterday.
Nice.
But yeah, but in doing that, we then have to like super pregnancy fertility prep our food, prep like the house, like products, and like just wants to be super safe. So get like fertility, pregnancy safe shampoo, conditioner, makeup, all the ones and twos. So this was not a weekend where I could just chill because her parents are also visiting next weekend,
Do you have to prep
and
the
the
house?
pretty much. We also picked up a couch on Tuesday that was free.
Okay.
Nice couch. It's a nice, big, comfy couch. But I had to like vacuum clean it. You gotta clean that stuff out. You can't just be
Oh, for
leaving
sure.
random. Yeah, so I carpet cleaned it and and then rearranging it. The living room's been a mess for the past couple days. I'm trying to get rid of a bunch of stuff again for the prep of Jess's parents being here. And yeah, it was a lot. So I stubbed the shit out of my toe, and it's probably broken. I haven't really rested it as much as I should have,
My God.
but we just chilling. And then yesterday, I'm
Wow.
chop, I'm chopping an onion, and I slice right through, right through the nail bed
No.
of my middle finger.
No.
So it's like my middle finger, like this part, is just like a flat. I partially want to just super glue it, but I know I probably shouldn't do that. So I was an adult.
You should.
I put some Neosporin on it, and then I put a bandy.
You might still need to super glue it though.
Can you do that? Can you super glue a?
I mean, it's like liquid stitches, right? I don't know.
Oh, that's such a good idea!
Wow.
Wow.
Professional, please.
I'm gonna write that down. Liquid stitches. Truly, because I be randomly hitting it on stuff, or whenever I, if you put a little pressure, you move your fingers sometimes, and I feel it move, and it hurts
Oh,
so
gross.
bad.
Okay.
It is disgusting. Imagine me telling, like, first off, when it happened in the kitchen, I was like, obviously, I was like, oh my God. And Jess being, at the point where she is with the very emotionalness, was just like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm okay. I'm fine. Like, it's good. And then when I show it to her, she's like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. And then she sees it, she's like, ugh. She's like,
Gross.
it is. It's three things. So hopefully it just like we stop there. I'm not trying to add to that, but I just wanted to share that story because it's a series of unfortunate events.
Well,
Hopefully,
this is like an imaginary stage over you right now, and
thank
let's hope
you,
that that juju is gone.
thank you, thank you. I'm hoping I got all the bad juju, and Jess gets all the good ones. Like I'll take it for the fam. I would just also like to throw some kudos to myself because I've been killing it as a partner with this whole baby prepping thing. I'm like, Jess didn't get up at all yesterday. Like, because, well, I mean, to like go to the doctor and come back. But once she got the IUI, I was like, your butt is laying down, legs up all day. And she was, she's in a little bit of pain. So I was like, anything you need, I got you. I was killing it. I went to Target in a torrential rainstorm to
Wow.
get her makeup. Yeah. Kudos to Cammy. So I'm just gonna give
Bravo
myself
to you.
kudos. Thank you, thank you. Hoping a little nugget comes out of this. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
see, we'll see. But anyway, um, before we dive in to mental health, which is our topic this week, I was wondering. Well, I know I discovered earlier that you don't like Selena Gomez that much. So I mean, it makes sense because you don't like Taylor Swift either. That's fine. But
She
her
has
new
feelings
song,
about this.
her album just came out with Benny Blanco,
Mm-hmm.
right? So her fiance is a producer, and just came out with "I Said I Love You First." That's the name of the album. And there's just one song I really really like, "Ojitos Triste." So you're gonna have to listen to it. It's a good song. It's got good vibes. It's very whimsical. But the song "The Bluest Flame" is just like a hype song. The beat is really good, and it just like it's automatic. Like I hear it, I'm just like, yeah, let's go. Let's do. I need you to listen to it, and I need your reaction. So that's your homework when we get off this episode.
Record my reaction to hearing the song.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to record your reaction, but just listen to it and then tell me what you think.
Oh, so you just want my like thoughts on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
if it gives you the same vibe.
Okay. Yesterday, Bobby and I watched Hot Ones with Benny Blanco and Selena doing it together because we love Hot Ones, and it was funny because in the episode they were playing like a game together. They had to answer questions for each other, and she had to name what is his most underrated song, and She couldn't. Like, of course, it's because of the, well, not of course, but apparently it's because the hot sauce was too hot. She was like, I can't answer that. But he's like, damn, you don't know any of my songs? So, like, we're watching it, and Bob's like, oh, because she literally couldn't even name like a song to answer the question.
Dang.
I'm like, damn.
Should just
But
name.
yeah, they seem cute and happy together, so that's great. But like, I'm not the biggest Selena fan. There's a few songs of hers from back in the day that I like, but that's where it goes. And like, I like her as an actress. I just really can't stand even her speaking voice, to be honest. It's really hard to listen to her.
Yeah, she definitely has. She could be identified by her voice. Like she has one of
Yeah,
those
she sounds like
voices.
Squidward. She's
I'm gonna have to listen to her and Squidward and see.
yeah, just like Don't Look. It's like put it on. Like, Only Murders in the Building. I love that show so much. I love.
Yeah.
But if you just close your eyes and just really listen to her voice, it's just it's really
I never thought to make that comparison, but I will say that it is comparable. So I, I have to listen to be completely sure. But this will be a little bit of chisme for this episode.
okay.
I don't really follow Bieber that much. I'm not in the. I was never a belieber. If that's, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what they're called, right?
Mm-hmm.
But apparently he's having a crash out,
Really?
and yeah, ever since this album came out, I think the other day he posted on his Instagram story, and it was a picture of him in the studio or a video of him in the studio, and then one of him with his kid and Haley, and then another one of a text that said, I tried to play nicey nicey. And there was this whole thing, apparently. I fell into the lore a little bit the other day. There was this thing with him and Selena and how he really wanted to have kids, but because Selena has lupus, it's like harder for her to have kids. Like, she's not able to have kids. So that's something he always really wanted out of her, and he wasn't going to get the way that I guess, you envision having a kid with your partner. And so that's why people are thinking that the picture of him with his family saying like I have everything I need or something like that was a dig. But apparently there's just this huge theory that he's having a crash
I
out.
think it's bullshit. I think it's bullshit.
I do too. Yeah.
Something out of this. So, because Selena's happy and there's like they want to make this whole thing now that her happiness is not trying to make Bieber jealous. Like he's moved on, he has his own life. Like everybody get a life, please.
I mean, yeah. I agree. I agree. Well,
Yeah.
you know people. They be trying to find little things everywhere.
Yeah, but wasn't there tea about like Haley and Selena a couple months ago too?
Yeah, there's this whole other I think that's where my thing started. My digging started. There's this whole thing about how Haley is just this obsessed secret super fan of Bieber and
Oh
slowly
yeah.
meddled her way into his life and just copied the things that Selena did and was just trying to basically be like Selena to get him to notice her and invade his life.
Interesting. Interesting.
People are really committed to looking into that stuff.
I see that. Yeah, that's what I heard that like Haley was a stalker and that's the only way how she got into like his life. But I'm like, but she's also a Baldwin, so she had can have easy access to like high status people and anybody could have slid in his DMs. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'd like
Yeah.
I like to see receipts, please.
There's literally I didn't watch it, but I have heard that there's like this whole mini series that has receipts and like detailed info and
Oh,
all this stuff.
mm-hmm.
But I haven't watched it because I don't care that much.
How much do you tune into the Goss channels?
Um, every once in a while, if it pops up. Honestly, what I do sometimes as background noise at work, like while I'm working, I don't know if you've heard of like Second Day Update and War of the Roses. It's like
Mm-mm.
these radio shows where people try to catch their partners cheating and seeing who they send roses to, or someone goes out on a date with someone and they don't call back, so they're trying to figure that out, and they call the radio station to do it with
Oh
their
yes.
partners.
Well, I've listened to like, yeah, one of like our regular Florida radio stations have done that, and it's like, oh, I want to see if they respond and they send the roses to me or do they send them to someone else? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like messy, but
Yeah.
it's
So,
entertaining. So it really is. So there's this TikTok, fun fact if you ever need some white noise, that's called Best of Radio. And they just play the full episodes in a TikTok, which is great because so many TikToks, like, which TikTok might not exist in a couple days, so I don't know where to look for it after that. But
here we go again.
um I know, right? So many just post pieces like part one, part just to get views. But Best of Radio, if you guys like listening to the Chisme, is a good TikTok because they post the whole thing. They don't do that whole part.
That's good. Yeah, I hate when it breaks it up into parts too.
And then they don't post the second part. It's like, bruh, come
Mm-hmm.
on now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'll check it out.
you should. It's good, just background noise. I
Well,
always worry.
we grew up with radio, so it's a little bit of nostalgia too, you know. I don't feel like there's radio like that anymore.
Yeah, and if I play an audiobook, I need to be paying attention to it, so it's harder when I'm working. And sometimes I just don't feel like listening to music. Like I need the stimulation, I guess. So it's just nice to have that in the background. But I always worry because my job has TikTok and they're always on. So I always worry that our social media person's like, she's on TikTok like all day. I'm like, no, I'm working. I'm just playing it in the background.
That's funny.
But anyway, what does social media do for you sometimes? It can be like this mindless lapse where you're just endlessly scrolling, right?
Yeah.
That could be a coping skill when you're feeling stressed. What
Seriously.
other, yeah. What other questionable coping skills do you have?
Oh, me?
Yeah. What do you got?
Skills. Questionable coping skills. Um, I mean, I'm a media person. I like to like watch a lot of movies and TV. So like I'll probably intentionally watch like a movie I've watched 67 million times. I don't know if that's questionable. I think that's just like what can be comforting if you need to cope with something is like familiarity, right? So something that you listen to, maybe it's your favorite album or it's your favorite movie or but I have no problem watching the same thing over and over and over again. If it's I find it comforting, you know. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I use like wine to cope, but sometimes like a nice glass of wine, it's proven to like calm you down a little bit. So, but it's definitely not. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it's a coping of mine. There have been days where I'm like, you know what, I really would like a glass of wine because it also is a little bit of like that comfort thing. It's like, oh, like I earned it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what else? I like being alone, so I feel like to a certain extent, right? Saying no or being a little bit of a recluse can be questionable sometimes, right? Because we should be seeking connection if we're feeling down. Not
Mm-hmm.
should, but I guess that could help, right? But to an extent, any coping skill that you take to the extreme can be questionable, right? So that includes like being solid. What's the word?
Solitaire.
No, is it?
Sol
I was gonna say that, but it didn't sound right.
being sol
What's the word I'm looking for?
solitary in solitary confinement.
Okay, I was about to say that, and it didn't sound right for a second.
Solitated.
No, being alone. Being alone.
Yeah.
Having that alone time, that me time. Um, but yeah, I can't think of any more on the top of my head. I mean,
Hmm.
I like to think that like I journal and I do these things, but I don't do it on a consistent basis. I feel like for me, If I want to cope with my emotions, then a lot of times, oh, I clean. I
That's
definitely,
not questionable. That's a good one.
I mean, it's not questionable, but it also, I tend
It's a
to,
good
it's not
coping skill.
avoidance, I feel like, yeah, it's just a little bit of avoidance, I feel like is questionable. Um,
Mm,
and I just dive into like more work or more tasks or, you know, I think
yeah,
that's
that is
more
questionable. Yeah.
questionable. Hmm. What about you?
Definitely avoidance. Um, I think I also enjoy solitude sometimes, and not even direct solitude because it. You're married. You're never really alone that often. You always kind of have someone there at the end of the day. So it's not physical solitude, more as mental sometimes for me. I think I don't reach out. I don't make the effort to talk to people. I kind of just reclude into my shell
Hmm.
of life and just do the day by day. And I talk to my wife. And if she
Hmm.
asks me how my day is, I'm like, it's good. How was yours? Like indirectly avoiding
Hmm.
feelings. That's definitely a questionable skill that I have. I think I think that's probably it. I don't really cope. I don't. I have different coping strategies that I do in moments of anxiety, and I think that when I'm sad, sometimes, mostly when it's like the feeling of loneliness, I do reach out a little bit more, like, or I'll reach out to somebody to connect that I haven't talked to in a little bit. But other than that, I don't really. I know people can fall into like eating. That's like a coping strategy that it could be questionable if you're, downing a bunch of calories, or if you're not eating, that's another one. I feel like that might be one that I have. Sometimes if I'm upset, I don't really eat. I don't feel hungry that often. Um what are other questionable coping skills people can have? Retail therapy. A little treat yourself every single day, all day. That might be a questionable coping strategy. Get yourself a little cafecito, but don't go ham,
I
putting
look
yourself into
for
debt. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Maybe not a whole Target trip where we got a cart full. I have a friend that I think used to struggle with that. Um, Shopping a lot out of their means, racking up
Mhm.
that debt, just
Yeah,
buying things. Yeah.
I definitely would say that like I love to shop and I love like to go stroll in Target and like have maybe that could be one of my coping, but I for me I definitely don't think that I take it to the point where it's like a concern. It's for me, especially lately since I've been trying to save. Honestly, I haven't gone in a while. I kind of limit my trips, so there's that discipline that comes into that.
Mhm.
But definitely, it can be something that gets out of hand or is a concern if you don't restrain, yourself when you really need to. So,
Yeah.
hmm.
Um, Something else, I think, because I feel like we both kind of fall into being the strong friend,
Hmm.
right? The person that's all reliable, always there, can take on, the problems of others, or is that source to reach out to. So, being that person, how can that be exhausting for you?
Um, yeah, I definitely think it gives me the excuse to avoid. So I already have the issue of avoiding and not wanting to talk about it. And if I
Yeah.
delve myself into like trying to support somebody else, it allows me to kind of ignore what I am going through, or it gives me a reason not to kind of address it. And I think I take advantage of that. So that's definitely, I think, the part that allows the avoidance. And then yeah, it can be exhausting when you just like, it's not that I don't want to either. You know what I'm saying? It's like that
Mhm.
divide between you want to be there for your friends and like you typically you're perceived as strong because there's a lot you can take. Like everybody's tolerance for like bad news, I would say, or like those tough moments is different. I can
Yeah.
be to listen to somebody else for hours and I have to be able to dump all of my own emotions that I even that I feel for my friend, right? I tend to match, like if they're upset, I get upset for them and I'm so involved emotionally into what they're going through. So that can weigh on a person up if they don't properly kind of let that go off of their chest as well. So I think if that builds and you don't have like appropriate coping skills or appropriate ways to kind of like release all of that, then it can become exhausting for sure. So I think it's that. It's like having those boundaries too of like how much can I take or how much can I be there for you if I haven't even kind of like released the things that I'm going through. So I think it's important to manage that. Especially if you're that go-to person for your friends to be a listening ear or, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's like a great place to be for your friends because it allows connection, but there's always a limit to how much somebody can take before they have to like really just take a break from it.
Yeah, it's hard to pour from your cup if it's empty.
Mm.
So I definitely think that finding that balance is super important, and can super agree with you on the point of avoidance, right? That hit home. It's like if I'm dealing with their problem, then I don't have to worry about mine. That can be my
Mm-hmm.
sole focus.
Mm-hmm.
You can see how that kind of plays into those questionable coping skills for sure. And I think that it's super important to find that balance when you have, those people that come to you for advice, because giving and giving, you can easily get burnt out or get to the point where you're so focused on these people and helping them through whatever they're going through, right? Because they're your friends and you want to make sure that your people are good, that eventually you realize that maybe your problem has grown past the point where you can take care of it yourself, or avoiding it so much has made it grow bigger and bigger. It's like one of my favorite analogies is your feelings being like a bottle of Coke. You shake it so many times, eventually it's going to explode. It's like your feelings. You avoid them so much, but you're stirring it up, stirring it up. Eventually, at some point, that bottle is going to open up and your feelings might come out in a way that's not the healthiest, you
Right.
know?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think are good ways that you can kind of balance helping yourself while also helping other people? Like how can you find those healthy ways to balance?
Yeah, I think that's always the question. I don't know if I have like the best answers for it. I think because it's something you have to practice and be really good at in order to give like that advice. For
Hmm.
me, again, I think for me as a person, I found that alone time does fill my cup back up and like over the years trying to learn how to balance how much am I responding, how available am I to the people around me, giving myself time to process something. So I'm not, if I answer or if I am able to be there for a friend, I'm gonna be there. Like I'll push aside what I need to, but I think it's just being real with yourself and like really addressing whether how much of your cup do you have to give to somebody else. And
Hmm.
it's not easy to though to just say, just like it is with our partners, it's not easy to be like, yeah, well, I don't have a lot to give you right now because it seems like you're pushing their problems aside or that they're not important to you, which is
Yeah.
not the truth, for somebody who is that person. Like if you are the strong friend, if you're the friend that people go to, it's because you have a history of being there for them and that they trust you
Hmm.
on you. But I think if you are that person in somebody's life, I think you easily maybe hold a certain expectation on yourself that you always have to like give advice or have the right things to say. Honestly, a lot of people just want you to listen. So I think try not to put those expectations on yourself that you are going to solve their problems or even have any good advice to give them in the moment. I think listen, and if you can't listen, then try and be as honest as you can and say, look, I've got a lot going on and I love you, want to be there for you, but I just don't know if I am able to like be that person for you right now. And
Mm.
then to be able to like process your own stuff. I mean, I think it's about what works for you, right? If that's a therapist, if it's maybe your own go-to friend, if it's journaling, sometimes people write it out and it makes them feel better. But me as a person, I think it's also like I'm also somebody who works a lot. I work a lot of hours and I'm constantly thinking about my work. So I intentionally try and make time for either like, brain dumping on something stupid, whether it's like a funny show or just having something that doesn't need me to think about it, right? I can just like check out for a little bit. Or honestly, something that I haven't been doing that I really would like to do is implementing more creative outlets.
Mm.
So I've been considering again, I had never done it, but I really want to take a dance class, or maybe I want to go bowling once a week, or like do something that's fun, either active or creative, to release some of that like pent up, I guess, energy or just like creative energy that I have. Um, and it's the truth. Like when it comes to being active, it really does help. Like it's just our physiology. Like we develop more positive emotions when we are active. It's just the way that our bodies work. So incorporating that into your weekly routine, if it's possible, I think it's going to benefit anybody.
Yeah, that endorphins that get released when you work out are happy for the brain.
Yeah, again, like so many people are into pickleball these days. Like that's a way to be active, and if you find it fun, and if you have a group where you can have that social like input as well, great. Then you hit three different points um,
Mm-hmm.
there when it comes to like being able to enjoy yourself and have something outside of maybe your day to day routine that you look forward to. But definitely creating things to look forward to and to that whatever fills your cup depends on the person.
Mm.
Because exactly what you said, you can't give an empty cup, right? Like so you have to prioritize yourself in a way where you're making sure that you keep refilling that energy to be able to give to other people. Because if you're that friend, then most likely that's important to you and that role is something that you're good at and you're a good listener, or maybe you're just you're that go-to person. And so you've got to prioritize yourself in the process.
For sure. For sure. I think that finding the balance means finding an outlet, like you said. I think that it's super important, especially if you do have that pride in being the person that people go to make sure that you have a place to go to. And, like you said, therapy, it's always a good option. You can talk to, have your own go to person, an outlet of some sort, some way that you can release all of that pent up emotion so that you can be there for the people that you want to be there for, and it's not a detriment to you because you also have to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Let's talk about anxiety.
Anxiety, anxiety.
So we start dancing.
I love Doji so good.
That's pretty good. It's a good song. Do
Mm-hmm.
you struggle with anxiety?
Yes, but it has come in phases for me. So I would say
Hmm.
that I would say I mean, as somebody who's hasn't been to therapy, I don't know all the answers as far as maybe why, but I can guess that like the past relationship I was in was definitely a trigger for me because I remember in those years having really, really bad anxiety, kind of feeling like something bad was going to happen to the point where I was having like outward emotional kind of like responses towards my anxiety, even like going to work. I remember being at the stop sign, just feeling like something bad was going to happen. Like, so I know I definitely experienced it. But I think for me, it's very much triggered by my environment. So what's kind of going on? I absorb all of that. Um, but for the most part now, it's like sometimes events or certain kind of like situations that are more upcoming, I will feel a little bit of that kind of toward whatever it is coming up. But overall, I would say that I'm not feeling like it's an ongoing issue for me. But definitely it's something that like I've experienced, and it was really, really hard at the time to figure out how to manage it because it kind of felt like totally out of my control at that point.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big piece of what anxiety is feeling out of control. And I think having anxiety and being like in that mental headspace, you kind of think of every possible thing that could go wrong, and couple that with feeling out of control of yourself in that moment, it's just like crazy. A lot
Mm-hmm.
going on. I don't think that I struggle with it too much. Kind of like you have had phases. I did struggle with it a lot right out of high school for a couple of years there. But I was able to somehow work my way out of it, and don't really deal with it to the extent that I used to. But I know a bunch of people that do struggle with it a lot, and I see the detriment to their mental health that it has, and the effect that it has on them. And I think that, especially at the stage in adulthood that we're in right now, the pressure of having it all together,
Mm-hmm.
that unsung underlying thing that everyone kind of expects out of you, in terms of, I think, not just, I think in terms of the older people in your life, because I feel like our generation and under really don't put that kind of pressure. Like, I think as a society, these next generations that are coming up outside of the boomers are more of, you hit it when you're supposed to hit those milestones. A lot more forthcoming, I think, of allowing people to grow at their own pace and to get where they need to go on, like, by themselves. So I think that anxiety of having it all together might not be as bad now, but you still have those little moments. Like, I'm sure you did when you got married. How long did it take for somebody to ask you when you were going to have a kid?
Oh yeah, right away. I wasn't even married yet. And he was like, now that you're engaged, okay, like are you gonna have kids right after? It's like I've never been that person who puts like a time stamp on something and says, yep, I need to be married by this time or this age, or I need to have kids by this age. Like, I've never been that person. But that's also a result of like the people around me. I've never
Mm.
really been pressured outside. Like, Bob's family, they're traditional, like Cuban people. So right away, they're like, when do you want kids? Or do you, the very quintessential, like, well, I want grandchildren, or not grand.
Yeah.
Well, my mother was great. It's really the older folk, the great great
Yeah.
aunts, and the older folk. They're the ones that are
Boomers and above.
babies. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, come on, let's go. He's like, there's that. There's the, or if you've been together with somebody for a long time, they might be like, all right, when are you gonna, when's the next step? When are you gonna get married? Or when are you gonna move in together? There's all these different levels. And I think that as a society, like I said, I think that we're getting less towards pushing people towards those pressures. And I don't know if it's because of the state of the world and the way that things are, where financially it's just not it to do certain things. Like, if we did not have the pressure of time on us for having a kid, like just being the age that she is, like she's already at a high risk, and so we got to get the ball rolling here. We definitely would have given it a couple of years before taking that step into being parents, to so that we're in a better place. We would have finished paying off the wedding and stuff and not added on all of these other expenses. But you know biology. So I think that I'm looking forward to seeing how these next generations grow, and how things continue to go in that, pressure of having everything together at this age, or knowing what you're going to do at this age. But I am curious, have you I've never struggled with this, but have you ever had like imposter syndrome
Yeah.
at work and relationships?
Yeah, I definitely experienced this at work because I mean, I always have been the type of employee who strive to like go up the ladder as much as possible. I get really bored, and I feel like I'm always been that person to kind of be like in competition with myself, and I'm like, okay, I want to, you know, uh overachieve in these areas, and I want to learn and grow, and I want to see if I can get into leadership positions, right? Like, so I've always strived for that. But sometimes I feel like I would get to a certain point and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's just me. Like, I underestimate myself a little bit. I'm like, I'm the boss. Like, I have to make these decisions. Oh, it's like you're relying on me. So definitely, I definitely felt that.
Hmm.
And that in itself, yeah, can lead to like that anxiety of just failure, right? You don't want to fail. Nobody ever does, but it is a part of life. And until you accept that or you experienced it and come back from it and bounce back from it, then it is something that can trigger anxiety for sure. And just even the way that the people perceive you and the fact that am I doing a good job? Am I performing at my best? Did I make the right decision in that really critical moment? So all of those things are pretty anxiety inducing. They can be. And depending on your position, what your job is, sometimes those critical decisions can make or break a situation. So it's a lot of
Hmm.
pressure that you put on yourself to perform well.
For sure, for sure. I think that imposter syndrome for me, now that I thought about it a little bit more, the only time that I can think of applying it to life, never work, thankfully, but that just might be because I got a big head and I'm like, yeah, I got this. I'll figure it out. I'm that meme of the dog where everything's on fire, but I'm like, this is fine. I'll figure it out. But I will say imposter syndrome and like that anxiety in relationships in the past, I have definitely been guilty of being in like a not great situation and not telling like my friends the whole deal. Cuz when you're with somebody, your friends love you and they have your back and they want what's best for you. So if you go and say something negative about the person that you're with, who's going to remember it the most? Your friends. It's the same with your parents, right? You don't go and complain about your partner to your parents because you want them to see your partner in the best possible light always, right? So I've definitely been guilty of not telling people my life certain things when it comes to my relationships just because I don't want that judgment, I guess.
Mhm.
The inevitable judgment that you always know is coming because it typically doesn't work out in the end.
Please,
But that's
please don't prove it.
that's where I would say that I experience imposter syndrome.
I got you. Yeah, and there, right? That's just another form of you don't want people to perceive a relationship, as a bad one, right? You're putting again, it's you want something so bad and you want it to work out the way you want it to work out, but sometimes you see the signs that it's not, or just even it's just the possibility, right? It's not even that it's the reality. It's sometimes people's anxiety don't allow them to see, or they're just scared of the worst. And so they kind of only focus on that. And that's sometimes not the reality. Sometimes the situation is great and maybe they've had a bad situation in the past, or maybe something has occurred that reminded them of a previous situation. And they're like, this is going to happen again. Again, it all falls back into thinking the worst of what's going to happen, right? You always think something bad is going to happen, or you just don't know what that thing is, but it's just lingering there. And that's the
Mm.
worst feeling. I feel like it's like when people, I know nobody likes to be in limbo with a partner because that limbo feeling is like, what is happening? I don't know. Again, you're out of control in every aspect. So anxiety is the same thing. It's this lingering feeling that you're out of control with what's going to happen next, and it's probably going to go bad. And it's just this loop of negativity and loop of unknown that you have to deal with, and it just sucks. It really does, you know. And for some people, it's something that they adopt. Sometimes it's based off of experiences, and you know, it's not a the solution is not a one size fits all. It's something you have to work through as an individual person. You see what works for you.
For sure.
Mm.
I agree. Not one size fits all. That's mental health in a nutshell. You gotta find your correct place and way to cope. How do you take care of yourself? You have to be able to identify those things in yourself. Some things look a certain way to some people, but they might not look the same for you. Like I used to think that I didn't really struggle with anxiety because I look at my wife and I can see it and I'm like, "Oh, I don't have those things. Like I don't have those reactions, but it presents differently in different people." So it's super important to check in with yourself and also look at yourself overall and say, "Hey, when I start to feel this way, like what am I feeling? What do I see?" Some coping skill that Jess actually taught me was the five senses,
Mm-hmm.
which is like when you feel yourself getting worked up to a certain point. What are five things you can see? Four things you can hear.
Mm-hmm.
Three things
Some
you can.
grounding exercises, right? Where you're trying to use your senses to kind of get you back into your like baseline calm state,
Yeah.
right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And one thing you can taste. Two things you can feel. I don't. Sorry, guys. I wish that I knew all the. I know
What
five C,
you do, and you
four here.
purposefully tune into each sense to ground yourself back to like
Hmm.
a calm state. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
super important. Journaling does work for some people. I wish it worked for me. I find I've tried it, and I think I've tried to get into this routine in the morning. I think routines are also a great way of
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
kind of forcing yourself to work on that mental health, but could also, don't get obsessed with it because if you miss a day, you don't need to go into a tail spiral. It's like a healthy. Everything could be questionable, right? A coping skill
Yeah.
if you don't know how to regulate it. But like I've done this whole morning meditation routine and journaling is it's good to be reflective, but I just don't find it working for me as much as I other people. It's like crazy, life changing. People can meditate. I've tried meditating, but it's impossible for me to not think of anything ever. Like I can't turn my brain off. I
Mm-hmm.
think that knowing the things that don't work for you is just as important as knowing the things that do. And it's just all about finding that rhythm to be successful and to also take care of yourself. Because at the end of the day, you can't help anybody else. You can't help yourself. And everything is going to be harder for you if you don't take care of you. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a matter of giving yourself the opportunity to dedicate that time. Look at you and say, "Hey, you're worth these 10 minutes that I'm going to give to you right now. Like I'm worth this time. I'm worth taking the time to dedicate to finding myself out, to working through my emotions because I I am deserving of being in a better place of finding that happiness." So it's just an
Yeah.
important reminder to everybody out there. Give yourself the
Yeah.
time.
I think one big important piece that I mean a lot of people experience because of different reasons, culture could be one, but there's a lot of shame in saying that I'm not okay right now. And people feel shame because of that. And so that kind of leads to avoidance sometimes of, oh no, I'm not, there's nothing I need to figure out, or I'm not feeling pent up emotions, or no, that's just a small thing, no big deal, right? It's like kind of minimizing your emotions because there's some shame that comes along with admitting, yeah, like I'm not doing well, you know. And if you don't feel like you have that safe person or safe space or safe outlet, then you just never address it and it kind of builds up, like you said, the Coke bottle example. So I don't. have a 100% answer of how to overcome shame, but I think a part of it is realizing that you're not singular in the situation. So many people can be experiencing what you are, and it is about being willing to try different solutions to see what works for you. So it could be a creative outlet, it could be exercise, it could be talking to a friend, it could be a therapist, it could be a bunch of different things. But if you can overcome the first, I feel like, part, the first step, which is admitting that something's wrong, then it's just the next step to actually being able to achieve like true coping with what you're going through. One thing that comes up to my mind is like, in being a therapist and working with our kiddos and our population, burnout is very real and very common. And, as a administrative person in my clinic, I'm always trying to figure out, well, how do we manage burnout? What am I going to suggest to my therapist who's telling me, Monica, I'm just like to my wits' end? And I would love to just give more of a suggestion than just, we'll take a day off. Because personally, even if I take a day off, I'm at home sitting in on my couch watching a movie. Do I really feel refreshed? No. Like,
Mm.
that's not a solution for me as a person. And I can probably guarantee it's not a solution for a lot of people. So it's just more than that. It's more than take a day off and take a physical break. You need a mental break. But what does that mean? Does that mean you need to be doing nothing? Or maybe you need to be doing something that actually brings you joy or brings you,
Mhm.
it actually allows you to distract your mind a little bit into something that's positive or creative or just like joyous in your life. So again, so personal, but I think it does take some exploration um, as an individual to figure out what actually makes you feel energized. And that's the key. Is like, if you do something and you actually feel energized after, then that's going to be a good thing. That's going to be, that just kind of shows you, oh, this boosted me up. This really made me feel good. And those are the things you want to take note of to continue doing if you are feeling like you need that, if you need something to fill your cup a little bit. So I think taking note of what actually makes you feel like pepped up and feel good and feel positive are the things that you want to focus on.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to end this episode. That last thought, the final word, the last piece. I like it. But before we end, shall we talk about the Hunger Games?
Yeah, so Cami and I have our little book club that we started, and I was not like the best, and I didn't finish our part one, but I'm almost done. I'll finish tomorrow for sure. Just very busy.
No worries, no worries. Really quick before we jump into the Hunger Games, tying this into the section that we just talked about, which is mental health, our next month's book for May is The Let Them Theory, which is a nonfiction text by Mel Robbins, I believe. And it, I think, can have a great effect on your mental health. So, looking forward to cracking that one open. Now, Sunrise on the Reaping.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I am obsessed so far.
Yeah, I mean, I just love Hunger Games, like the whole lore of it. Like, it makes me want to watch all the movies over. I usually do it
Yes!
just reading it, and I also like. I was so excited for this book because Haymitch is one of my favorite characters, and has always been. And so to get a better understanding of where he came from, and like hearing that he had a brother and a family, his mom, and so it just makes me want to watch the movie. And I already told you this before. Like, when I read a book, I envision, I see it like a movie. So every kind of word I'm listening to, because I'm doing the Audible version, which I will say,
Mhm.
like, I wish I had this book physically in front of me. I feel like I don't know. There's something about this one that like I wish I had it in front of me. Maybe it's the dude's voice is not impressing me, but whatever. But so far I'm loving it. I love to hear kind of I'm comparing what the story is telling us and the format of the games and approaching the games and like the how the capital is moving and what they're doing to like the Hunger Games movies where Katniss is, and how different it is and how those things
Hmm.
develop. So it's fun to hear what it was like before versus what it is in the recent movies. But no, I love it. I love Haymitch. I think we can already get a sense of like what are his what his motivators are. There's already a love interest that we learned about, and it's like, oh, like he had a love interest, like, oh, yeah. So I'm curious to see where that goes, but and how he got picked is like what?
Yeah.
Oh
Yes.
gosh.
Yeah. Spoiler alert for the rest of this uh episode, because I did not say at the beginning, if you haven't read part one,
Well,
stop
we said
listening.
we said that we're going over part one, so if
We
y'all
did.
on the book club, you need to be already have read the part we're going to be talking about. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes. I think there's so many different plugins. Like you, I really want to rewatch the movies. Like I need to find. I might just play them. That might be my mindless background music when I'm at work these next couple of days. So I'm just trying to like. I really want to find time to just refresh my memory for some of these characters because I could like say I want to reread the books, but that's a lot, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able. My
Hearing
reading is
like hearing that name is like, do you know who these characters will be? And so I'm
yes.
see if we're going to hear any other familiar names, but we've heard familiar last names. So even that
Mm-hmm.
is cool. It's like great. Then, um,
You catch the Everdeen? I was like, ooh.
yeah, blah 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 everything. And I was like, yeah, like how far down the line is that? Because I don't remember the age difference between Haymitch and Katniss, so she's probably not even born yet. You know.
Yeah, I think it's like 20, 30 years probably.
Mhm.
I think it's so cool to just see all of the different plugins that we've seen so far. The pin, the Mockingjay pin, it's already made. It's like we now know where it's origined from. The fact that Haymitch helped create alcohol and was so much not a drinker to where he ended up being when we were introduced to him,
Mhm.
crazy. And I'm sure we're going to see that develop over time in the
Yeah.
book, like parts 2 and 3. But the character development so far, just seeing how well rounded he seems right now, and it really just echoes the how the capital just fucking destroys you because he seems so solid right now and put together, and then you see where you got in book one in the Hunger Games, like you just the what a difference, you
Mhm.
know.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what part one is really about. I think it's setting us up with like who he is, how much of a role he took into his household, what his motivations are. He's got a love interest that he would love to go back home to, right? That he protected. He is in the straight and narrow, like you said. He's the provider for his family. He wasn't supposed to get picked and he did, right? So there's all these like things that are building up into eventually what are going to be him preparing for the games. And yeah, and even I mean, you can't help if you're really familiar with the Hunger Games books and movies that we know and love. You can't help but compare again, like what they do now versus what they did for these contestants, and it's a quarter quell as well. So we have seen a quarter quell later on in the years, and this is like an early
Hmm.
version. So I'm excited to hear about like when we get into the games.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, and two,
I
sorry, it just came up for me.
You're
So
fine.
how like and what I love, which is so interesting, is that like we are really gonna get to understand why. he suggested the things he suggests for Katniss, being her mentor, when he didn't really. He's, it seems right now in part one it tells us there are no mentors, right? So he's got to really figure this out for himself, and he's already starting to. We're starting to see that his strategy, and he's catching on fast, and he's trying to set himself up for success as much as he can, even though he knows his odds are like, like way low.
Mm-hmm.
But we start to kind of understand how much he is realizing about the let's see, the odds of his survival. And then you're like, ooh, but he's such a good mentor in the future, and like this is why, it's because he learned all these things, and like so it's cool to think about who he's gonna be.
I can't wait until you get to part two to see like there's just so much more connection and stuff. I I am interested. Like, first off, I hate snow. Like song the last book gave me a better understanding of where he came from. Still ended up hating him at the end, but I didn't hate him as much, right? Because it humanized him a little bit to me.
For sure, for sure.
But now I hate him again. I'm just like, you're such a dick. Like, why? Why? Because you fell in love with a girl from a covey, the covey? Yes, it's so ridiculous. Why do you suck so much? I just
No,
hate him.
but you know what in Songbirds and Snakes, the whole thing was that like even though Snow wasn't always evil and like such a dick, he always had that hunger for power, and that never
Yeah.
changed, right? Like so we saw that thread throughout, even when he was good, we
Hmm.
he wants that luxury, that power. He wants to feel in charge, and so he was always kind of had that underlying like edge to him. And yeah, you don't love him, like, because you know how terrible he is in the future. But yeah, I know it's like so dramatic. It's like, oh, she broke your heart. Oh, she turned on you. Like, wah.
But
But
even in that situation, she didn't turn on him. He thought she did. Like,
mhm,
he just made it up and he's a psycho. So that's why I at the beginning I was like, oh, he comes from like he's in a rough situation, like he's persevering. I can kind of see like I know you turn out to be a piece of shit, but I'm going to try to give you that redemption arc that Collins is trying to get us to have. Like I don't know what you're trying to do, girl, right now, but let me go through the motions. And then to see him like manipulate this girl into falling in love with him and then just flipping the script like that. And
mhm,
then now we have it in part one, you don't get so much of an intro to him. It's
mhm,
coming in part two, but you don't hear about him so much. Just the fact that Haymitch drops Luella's body in front of him,
mhm.
and you don't really like see too much, but I just know, I knew it when I read that part. I was like, this man is just gonna, he's just, and then I was right. This is a part two preview, but well,
Mhm.
I'm gonna need you when you get to that part to text me your
Okay.
your
Yeah,
reaction.
I will. I will.
But
Stories like us. Usually in the games, right, you have your character that you're focusing on, and they're gonna want to reach for allies. So of course, we have Haymitch, who the person he wanted to have an alliance with was like a weaker, more like sweet girl who he grew up
his
with.
sweetheart.
A sweetheart, yeah. So there's a little history there, but like of course he chooses the sweet girl who he wants to protect, right? Because he's the provider of his family. He is a gentle person, and he knows, man, she's gonna get like eaten up alive. So he's like, you and me till the end. And of course, like for him, like that breaks his spirit. Why? Because she ends up getting like majorly injured based off of a situation, as it's the first event. What is it? Like it's them presenting themselves to the public when they get to the Capitol, and it's like if you've seen the Hunger Games, the part where Katniss and Peeta come out in their outfits and they're in the chariots and they're going through the stadium and all the people are like cheering. Yeah, well, something goes wrong and the girl dies. So, of course he's like, well, I so much for me being a protector. Like she couldn't even make it to the games before, this happened. And so now there's a little bit of that, like maybe some anger building up, maybe a little bit
Mm.
of like frustration, and then boom, he's already making his first move to like show up and puff his chest towards Snow. And so we'll see what comes out of that, because again, that parallels between Katniss and like being like, yeah, I'm the underdog, but like I'm still gonna make a statement right now. But what do we know about Snow is that he he smiles and he claps and he says he has this kind of persona in front of people, but we know that he's always got a trick up his sleeve. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see what his response will be toward this little bit of like a intimidation,
Yeah.
bit of
Sure.
showing up, like what, So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think that it's super interesting to see the Easter eggs that we're
Mm-hmm.
getting from Plutarch
Mm-hmm.
and the rebellion and all of those things, where he's kind of trying to level with Haymitch, and Haymitch doesn't believe it, obviously, because, you know, duh. But I do want to know. I'm telling you, I want to go back and rewatch the movies, because knowing that Plutarch talked to Haymitch about about how he can't believe certain things, and he's kind of dropping these hints so far in part one, where he's like, maybe I don't agree with everything they're doing to you guys, like maybe I
Yeah.
don't, maybe you are human. Having him sprinkle those little bits, I'm curious to see if, because Haymitch was Katniss's mentor, so in the movies or in the prior books, do you kind of see those little bits from Haymitch when he's finally decides to get engaged, because at first he doesn't care in the Hunger Games, right? But when he's finally like putting an effort, does he point her more towards Plutarch? How does he interact with Plutarch? Like, I'm just curious. Like, I want to go back and read all of the things. I know, but maybe there's little things that we
I don't
just
see
didn't
it.
notice.
I don't know. Because honestly, when they introduce Plutarch, it's like Plutarch, game maker. There's no interaction between Haymitch and Plutarch in the movies.
Yeah,
Like
you're
you
right.
just see you just see Plutarch. He's like, yep. He's only his most interactions he has when he's first introduced is with Snow, and he's like, and remember they're kind of talking shit about Katniss, and he's like, yeah, she thinks she's hot shit, but watch what we'll do. We'll put her back in her place. So you're assuming, oh, this guy is here for business, right? Like
That's true.
um, and you don't know that Plutarch and Haymitch have a relationship until she's already
Mm-hmm.
on the ship when they've retrieved her from this is Catching Fire, right? Pretty sure it's Catching Fire. Or when she gets retrieved into the ship at the games, right? When they get her
Hmm.
at the end of the movie, and she's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "This is
Yeah, it
the."
is at the end
She's
of
like,
Catching Fire.
she's like, "Haymitch." So she's pissed at Hamish because Petus wasn't retrieved, and that's the first time you see them together. But what you see from Hamish from the movies, I feel like, is more of like a. I feel like I'm sure we'll get a better understanding of why he is like, yeah, like, is a balance between you're rebellious and that's like such a dangerous place to be. So he's like, be who you are, but you need to get sponsors and you can't push the buttons too far because
Mm-hmm.
Snow, it's a little bit of this fear of like what Snow can do. He
Mm-hmm.
knows what Snow is capable of, and he keeps trying to warn Katniss. So obviously that fear and that like, nope, don't push the boundaries and don't put too much attention on yourself and stop making a fool in front of yourself in front of cameras. You need people to want to be on your side, right? Like all of this obviously is going to be from this advice is going to be from his own experience. So it's like, all
Yeah.
right, we're going to see what he chose to do and how what results he got, and you
Mm-hmm.
know see his journey and what Snow ends up taking out of his hat for him, right? And for the games, and so I'm really curious to see that.
So am I. I'm going to restrict myself from continuing next week into part 3. Like I'm gonna stay at part 2 because I don't want any spoilers in the next week's episode. But
Yeah.
I do have a homework assignment for us this week.
Hmm.
I don't know. I haven't looked into the movie and if they've casted yet, but I would love to have us come up with the top people that we get introduced. Yeah, in part 1 and part 2, like our top the most mentioned, and I want us to come up with who we think should or could be in those roles.
Okay. Like actors.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, which actor you think. And that's
Okay, so
homework
that
for
would
you
be
too.
okay, so that would be well, you know what? I wonder if they're gonna use the same actor for Snow.
Didn't he
I
die?
wish they would do that. Huh?
Didn't he die?
The past. This is the past.
No, I'm saying like didn't the actor that played Snow die?
Oh, like like the guy in real life?
I think so.
What
I
do you
don't
mean? What
know.
happened to him?
I don't
No,
who is it?
listen. He's you mean the real actor? Like
Yeah, no, the actual President Snow actor.
he's not that old in this book. So I mean the young actor from Songbirds and Snakes.
Oh, yeah, that guy's not dead. You're right. You're
Yeah,
right.
he's
You're
not
right.
that. Remember, he's not that old. Like
Yeah.
he mentioned that a blonde silverish hair. So that tells us that he's starting to go gray a little bit. But his hair in he's a blonde. He's a really really light blonde kid or
Mhm.
man. So maybe he's getting older, but I wonder if they could still swing like that actor playing Snow, just like maybe with a little makeup and hair and costume, he's a little bit
Yeah.
older. He's kind of in the, I wonder if they would do that because I think that would be
I,
dope.
I wonder too. So we'll leave that one up to interpretation. So
Yeah.
we can leave Snow as Snow, but I'm talking like young Haymitch, Lenore Dove, Maisie Lee,
Mm-hmm.
Luella, Wes. I can't remember the odds guy. I can't.
I
His
don't know.
name's not sticking. Wesley Wellens starts with a
Uh,
W, but
yeah,
the
there's
guy that's it's all about the odds. Odds we're gonna survive. Odds we're gonna die. And then whoever we're introduced to in part 2, that's a prominent character. I would say that they're sticking throughout the storyline and important, like mentioned more than like 10 times, I'm gonna say, because they talk to us about everybody, just all the district kids, and there's like mad district kids. I think 48 tributes, so maybe not all 48, but the main people, I think.
yeah. Well, yeah.
We
I mean,
can
even in part one, we would have like six different people we could try and predict who the cast members would be. So that would be fun to think about and try and think about who fits like personality, look, like who would be the right actor for it. I'm gonna think about it.
yes, that is homework for you, for me, and for y'all. Cheese my fam. You guys start thinking about it too. And coming to us next week when we talk about part dos.
Cool.
Any other thoughts you want to share?
Um, nope. I think again, if y'all part of the book club, then come ready to hear us talk about it because spoiler alerts are given.
Spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. I can't wait to finish part 2. And I can't wait until you start part 2. Like seriously, I need you to talk to me when you get to the part that I'm thinking about and tell me your thoughts. Like text me. And then we can talk about it on the pod. But I need to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I
But yeah.
feel like three homework assignments out of this podcast. Like I this thing, so I need to listen as to I need to one make sure that's doing my homework right now.
Listen, you don't have to do a bunch of characters. We'll come up with a list of the main We can just do the 6 from part 1 if you want.
I mean, this is a lot of homework, okay?
Listen, it's all in good fun.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys for listening. This has been a little chat.
A little chisme.